We've now come to an important part of the evening. You'll be glad to know that the band have arrived, they're setting up, so we are on schedule for the evening's entertainment. But before we get into that, I'd just like to introduce you to the two hosts for the evening, who have put on this fantastic event. So here we have Bishop Andrew, who is very, very familiar with Ethiopia and for over 9 years. He was in that part of the world, initially as chaplain in St Matthew's.
My goodness, I didn't know that.
Yes, yes. Google is a wonderful thing. 2002 to 7. Chaplain to St Matthew's in Addis, and then after that he was area bishop for Ethiopia and the Horn of Africa, so very familiar with the development issues of that part of the world, and obviously an old friend of Tutu. So when Tutu had the idea of trying to do something about the current problems, the current drought and real threat of malnutrition that's happening in Ethiopia and wanted to do something about it, then Bishop Andrew and Tutu got together and brought their energy and time, and also, let's face it, a bit of money to the party. So the whole of this evening is courtesy of them. So the band, the food, everything is covered. So that's all the money from your tickets, all the money from your purchases at the market stall, all the money from your donations, and also your purchases of the spicy sauces. All of that is going directly to the fund which is going to this well that's going to be built. So I'm just going to ask both Tutu and Bishop Andrew just to say a few words. I did ask Tutu's children if they would like to say something. They have both been to the school, but they refused. And all I can say is the younger generation, I do despair. Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to give you Bishop.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed, David, and welcome to you all. It's so good to see you all here. Thank you very much for coming. I hope you're really enjoying the Injera and What and a drink and conversation. If you've not found it yet, they've actually got Ethiopian beer behind the bar, St George's beer. Do look it out, it's delicious. And it's been flown on the thing from Addis, isn't it? It has, so it's come straight from Addis. I think you might enjoy that. As David was saying, Janice and I lived in Ethiopia for 9 years before coming here. And it is a very, if you've not been, it's a very beautiful country. With beautiful people. Of course, you know that because you know Tutu and the people who are here with us this evening as well. It's a country that really just touches your heart very deeply. Spirituality, rather like in India, spirituality, I can borrow a phrase here and say that it's in the soil. The Orthodox Church in Ethiopia is very strong, but so is the Muslim faith and the Pentecostal and Protestant churches too. But that's not the whole story. It's just a glorious country of people who are trying their hardest to improve and to change their own lives. The government's done a huge amount over the years to improve the lives of the people there, and there's a tremendous will and heart in everyone to do exactly that. But still, every year, Ethiopia struggles with all sorts of things. And at the moment, there was a drought. We call it a famine to attract you in tonight, but it's a drought. The main reason being failed rains. Two rainy seasons have failed. The main rains, the current rains, which run between June and September, failed virtually completely last year, and the small rains before that. And so 10.2 million people are actually hungry at the moment all over the country, in the Amhara region north of Addis and south of Addis and Oromia, and down in the Somali region and over towards the Afar as well. And there are 500,000 children who are just desperate for treatment for severe acute malnutrition. The government's saying that it's going to get worse. In fact, expecting that another 2 million people are going to be food insecure and need food aid over the next few months as well. So the situation is desperate, and we just thought we ought to do something to try and ameliorate this, the little that we could do. So Tutu and I, we've known each other actually since the announcement day. So when you become a bishop in the Church of England, it's all sort of kept as a secret for ages, and suddenly you're kind of unveiled. And 10 Downing Street announced who the next bishop was, where I was going to be. And my announcement day was the 17th of January. I was over in Ethiopia, came back, didn't know the town I was coming to or anything, the first time I'd seen Reading. And there was an announcement day at the top floor of John Lewis, and somebody said, we found some Ethiopians living in Reading, we've asked them to come, just so that you feel comfortable and at home. There was Tutu. And ever since then, Janice and I have been trying to eat here, we bring people here. In fact, a few years ago we brought my mother here. My mother's now 87 years old, and I was on the phone to her this evening and said, Mum, we're doing this fundraiser for the Ethiopian famine, we're going to go and eat at Tutu's. And she remembered. And she remembered coming and said, please give Tutu my greetings, which is absolutely lovely. So we're just so thrilled that you have come. As David said, we're going to be using the money to build a well, and we're going to be working with Water Aid for that. So all the money that you spent on tickets, as he said, and the profits from the stall, the market stall you'll see out the back there, is going straight to that. So all the costs are covered. But just thank you so much for coming. And I just want to say thank you, perhaps on your behalf, to Tutu for all the hard work you put into this. You really have. You've decorated the rooms, you've actually cooked all the food, you've laid out the tables, you're here hosting us and running around, and really, yeah, but really wanting everyone to have a really good time. So Tutu, thank you so much. Colours of the Ethiopian flag, just to give you to say thank you so much for all.
Thank you very much, Bishop Andrew. Just before I ask Tutu just to say a few words, I'd just like to say a bit about the charity that she is working with in Ethiopia full time. This is Link Ethiopia. And this was a project which was Tutu's response to seeing the needs in her own country. And so for quite a while now, she's been supporting an elementary school about 100 kilometres south of Addis. She has been contributing to the rebuilding of a classroom and also sponsors 6 orphan children, so that they have the opportunity that children from a more sort of stable background have. So that's her own sort of contribution via the success of Tutu's Ethiopian table here. This is the way in which she's given back to her own country. Those of you who are interested in the food which you're eating, the traditional Ethiopian food, the pancakes you've been eating are called injera, and they're made from wheat. But traditionally in Ethiopia, they're made from a grain called teff, which is really interesting. It's native to Ethiopia, and it's a really interesting food grain, carbohydrate. And I think I'd just like to say a few words about RISC. I don't know how much you know about RISC as an organisation. Some of you may know Tutu's Cafe, some of you may know the Fair Trade shop, the World Shop downstairs. But actually, RISC is a charity whose mission is to raise awareness about global issues. And obviously the shop and the cafe are just our very public face. But actually, we do a lot of work with schools, encouraging teachers to take up these aspects of global citizenship. So if any of you are teachers, then we have all kinds of ways in which we can support you in your work. We also do a lot of public events, and so we run the International Festival, which happens every year in October, where we bring together a whole forum of like-minded organisations from Reading who all contribute in their way to making a more just world. Because although we're talking about an emergency that's happening now in Ethiopia, we've got to remember that this is just one manifestation of a much wider picture, one in which the resources of the planet are not being shared equally. And so we need to think about what we all can all do to make a difference to creating a more just world. And I think it's really interesting from RISK's point of view that we've got this event tonight, because RISK actually started an awful long time ago, way back in response to the very famous famine of 84-85, when obviously brought to our attention by Sir Bob, Saint Bob to some. We had a problem with Bob because the kind of stereotypes he was portraying of Africa, that it was all down to the climate that these poor people were starving, was actually not quite the truth. Because at the same time that people were hungry, Ethiopia was exporting food. It was exporting green beans. And so a project was started in 84 to try to do something about that, to try and raise public awareness about the true causes of global inequality, of poverty, and of the situation that had arisen in Ethiopia. And so, in the early days, it was called World Education Berkshire. It had a converted double-decker bus that toured around Berkshire, giving workshops in schools and community centres to try and do something about changing people's mindsets, challenging perceptions, challenging stereotypes. And then when that bit of funding for long-term unemployed people ran out, RISK, some stalwarts, a few veterans, aided by Colin Date, who's the current chairman of the trustees, who's over here. I won't embarrass him too much, but he's one of the really, really important people that made RISK happen. And RISK migrated from a disused school in Slough. It made the move to Reading, set up in rented premises up the road in 1987, and then came down to this building in 1994. And what you see here is the fruit of the labour of hundreds and hundreds of volunteers who've got involved in RISK as part of their way of making contribution to making a fairer world. So I'm really, really pleased that we could support Tutu and Bishop Andrew in this evening. And just remind you that there are other ways in which you could support the cause. There are all kinds of events. Just look at our website or join some of the campaigns that all kinds of organisations are running to make a difference. Whether it's just trying to live more sustainably, trying to do your bit for alleviating, mitigating against climate change, or living, choosing to live a more ethical lifestyle, changing your bank or whatever. There's all kinds of things which we can do just to make a little bit of difference. That's my rant over. Okay, so I'd like Tutu to step up and just say a few words.
Good evening, everyone. I think Bishop Andrew and Deb, they say everything what tonight about. The only thing I want to say is why I want to decide to make that way, you call it? Because I've been traveling in Ethiopia, like out of Addis, and I went the villages and everything. So I think when I see a young girl, maybe age between 12 or 13, they travel maybe 5-6 hours to get water and back. Because I'm a mother and I have a beautiful daughter, and I feel sometimes my daughter should be given opportunity to succeed and to shine. Why the other children in Addis or whatever they are, why they're not allowed to do that? So that's why I want to do this thing. So that means instead of that girl, she traveled all the way to get water, and she go to school. So that's the idea I came. I think I just told Bishop Andrew like a week ago. I said, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to do about this money. He said, what? I'm going to make some well. Said, I think you think I'm crazy, but like sometimes I have some ideas. But one thing I want to say is I've been given the opportunity to help my people in Ethiopia. I'm happy to, without you guys, so you don't know how I really thank you. And I see a lot of faces, they come every day down to the cafe, and today you are guys with me. So thank you so much. And when I see my daughter, every time, I think about the kids in Ethiopia. So I think that's enough to say. I think about it because the children in Ethiopia, they are smart, clever like my daughter here, because they don't give an opportunity. Even like mothers, I'm a mother, in the village, Ethiopian mom, she also mother, we are the same. And even they are smarter than me. But we don't give them opportunity. So at least if we do this, you know, the kids, they will have water next door. Instead of fetching water, like I said, they can't go to school and they'll be shining. So thank you so much. And one thing, the band is going to play now. So I want to see a lot of dancers. Maybe after 1 hour, maybe you might have some surprise. Not me. Because last time I remember I danced with not me. And also we have my friend. I remember the day he's born, but he's 7. So when I told him I'm going to do some charity event, so he said, can I come and dance for you? So today he came here to dance some ballet dance. He's 7 years old. So he's going to do some dance for you now.
Please give a big hand to Max Emilian.